There are houses that hold secrets, not metaphorically, not in the way that every family has things they do not discuss at dinner, or memories they leave unexamined in the corners of their minds. I mean literally. Some houses have rooms you are not meant to enter. Locks placed not out of forgetfulness, not out of habit, but out of necessity. And sometimes a child's curiosity is the only thing standing between the truth and something unspeakable being set free. This is what happened in one such house, and it was documented by the child who survived it. The child, who we will refer to only as the witness, was staying with their maternal grandmother during an extended school break. The grandmother lived alone, or so the witness had always believed. By all accounts, the home was ordinary, small, tidy, worn in the way that old things become, not broken, just used. The kind of house where every surface had a smell, where the walls seemed to breathe at night, where the floors kept a record of every footstep in the language of creaks and groans. The grandmother was a quiet woman, deliberate, the kind of person who placed things exactly where she wanted them and never forgot where that was. Which is why, when the witness noticed the padlock on the basement door, they noticed something else immediately. The key was hanging on a hook directly beside it, not hidden, not locked away, just there. The witness would later say that this seemed, at the time, like an oversight. Perhaps the grandmother was getting old. Perhaps she simply didn't want to forget. But carelessly placed keys are not accidents in houses like that one. They are tests. The witness waited. They lay awake in the dark of the guest room, listening to the steady, thunderous rhythm of the grandmother's snoring through the walls. And when they were certain she was deeply asleep, they moved. The padlock gave way without resistance. The door swung open, and the air that met them from the other side was old and cold and heavy, the way air becomes when it has been sealed in a room for a very long time. The staircase descended into darkness. The witness took one step. The wood shrieked beneath their weight. They froze. Above, the snoring continued, unbroken. They descended. At the bottom of the stairs, the basement revealed itself in the thin light that followed them down. Bare walls, bare floor, the smell of soil and something older than soil. And in the far corner, a shape, something large, something covered in an old wool blanket, draped with the deliberate care of someone trying to make invisible what could not be thrown away. The witness pulled the blanket aside. Beneath it was a cage, and inside the cage was a man. The witness recognized him immediately. It was their grandfather. The old man was calm in the way that people become calm after a very long time in a very small space. He spoke in a hushed, urgent tone. He begged the witness to open the cage. He said there was little time before she woke up. She, the grandmother. The witness was processing this, the cage, the man, the plea, when the basement lights clicked on. The grandmother stood at the bottom of the stairs. She was not panicked. She was not disoriented. She had the steady, unhurried energy of someone who had been expecting this moment for some time. There was something in her voice, not cruelty, not madness, but the particular, quiet severity of a person who carries a knowledge that no one around them yet possesses. She told the witness to step away from the cage, and then she explained. What the grandmother described next has no formal entry in any behavioral science journal, no documented precedent in any court record, but it has a name, or rather, several names, depending on the culture, the century, the language of the people who first encountered it. Doppelganger, changeling, skinwalker, copycat. The grandmother did not use these terms dramatically. She used them the way someone might describe a disease, with clinical steadiness, with the weariness of someone who had already passed through fear and come out the other side into something colder. Certainty. She told the witness that the man in the cage was not their grandfather, that her husband, the real man, the one the witness had known at birthday parties and holidays, who had given them a red tricycle on their 4th birthday, had been dead for some time, that she had buried him herself beneath the willow tree at the far end of the yard. She told the witness that what remained, what sat in that cage, wearing the face and carrying the memories of someone beloved, was something else. Something that had moved into the shape of her husband, the the way a hermit crab moves into a shell. It targeted the elderly, she explained, the vulnerable, those with assets, with savings, with the kind of accumulated life that could be quietly consumed. It would inhabit the form of a spouse or partner, live within that shape for months or years, and when the money was spent, when the performance had run its course, it would stage a death and disappear, carrying its collection of stolen faces to the next house, the next life, the next victim. The man in the cage called out. He spoke the witness's name. He mentioned the tricycle again. He said the grandmother had lost her mind. She did not respond to him. She walked to the far end of the basement. She opened a closet, and she removed from within it a weapon, improvised, crude, effective, a butcher's knife bound with heavy tape to the handle of a mop, a spear assembled with the practicality of someone who had been waiting and planning and was not afraid of what came next. The grandmother handed the weapon to the witness. She told them this was their punishment for coming into the basement. She told them what to do. The witness stood in the basement with a makeshift spear in their hands, a caged man pleading behind them, and a grandmother waiting in front of them. They asked how to make it quick. The grandmother told them, and then the witness turned and drove the blade into the grandmother's throat. The man in the cage cheered. He told the witness he had known they would come. He told them to open the cage now, to let him out, that it was over. The witness stood still. They said, "No, I don't think I will." And then, standing in the basement, above the body of the woman who had built this house into a fortress, against something she understood and they did not, the witness placed one hand on the grandmother's forehead and changed, not shifted, not disguised, changed. The skin resettling, the height adjusting, the features of the grandmother's face sliding into place over something that had never had a face of its own. The thing in the cage, the thing wearing the grandfather's shape, went very quiet. "You had your chance," the new grandmother said, in a voice that was not quite hers yet, "and you wasted it. Now I get to be her." There was no police report filed that evening. No missing persons case, no welfare check, no investigation. Because from the outside, from the street, from the neighbors who waved in passing, from the family who called on holidays, nothing had changed. The grandmother was still there. She still answered the phone. She still opened the curtains each morning. She still kept the key to the basement padlock on a hook beside the door. And the man in the cage below, the one who wore the face of someone buried under a willow tree, he was still there too, waiting, still waiting. We do not know how many shapes it has collected. We do not know what it looks like when it is nothing at all, when it has not yet decided what to become. We do not know where it goes when a life has been consumed. We only know what it leaves behind. What we know, and what this case file leaves us with, is a single, deeply uncomfortable question. The next time you visit someone you love, someone older, someone who lives alone, and they seem just slightly different than you remember, how would you know?